The anomaly appeared on a quiet Tuesday morning. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the wall of monitors at the Global Defense Initiative's primary detection facility, her coffee growing cold in her forgotten mug. The energy signatures were unlike anything she'd ever seen. Massive, organized, and unmistakably artificial. They were approaching from beyond Neptune's orbit, moving with deliberate precision. "Run the calculations again," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The facility's quantum computers hummed in response, processing terabytes of data in seconds. The results remained unchanged. 12 objects, each roughly the size of Manhattan, were heading directly toward Earth. Within hours, observatories worldwide confirmed the findings. Humanity had its first irrefutable proof of advanced alien civilization, but there was no time for celebration. The object's trajectory and formation suggested purpose. This was no random encounter. Sarah's team worked tirelessly, analyzing every scrap of data. The objects employed some form of propulsion that bent space-time itself, allowing them to travel at speeds that should have been impossible. More concerning was their ability to adjust course without any apparent thrust or energy expenditure. Dr. Chen, her assistant, burst into the room, tablet in hand. "The president is on the line. They're convening an emergency session of the UN Security Council." Sarah nodded, already moving toward the secure communications room. On her way, she passed the facility's central atrium, its glass ceiling offering a view of the stars above. She paused for a moment, wondering if this would be one of the last times she'd look up without fear. The UN meeting was chaos. Representatives from every major nation talked over each other, their faces projected on massive screens around the circular chamber. Sarah waited patiently until Secretary General Patel called for order. "Dr. Chen, please share your findings." Sarah stood, her voice clear and professional. "The objects approaching Earth represent technology far beyond our current capabilities. Based on their energy signatures and movement patterns, we're looking at a civilization at least type II on the Kardashev scale, capable of harnessing the entire energy output of their star system." The chamber fell silent. Sarah continued, "They'll reach Earth's orbit in approximately 72 hours. Their formation suggests military precision, and their technology indicates they could have remained undetected if they chose. They want us to see them coming." Before the panic could resume, a new signal cut through every communication channel on Earth. Screens worldwide flickered, and a face appeared, humanoid but distinctly alien, with iridescent skin and eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within them. "People of Earth," the being spoke, its words automatically translating into every human language simultaneously. "I am High Commander Vexthor of the Galactic Imperial Fleet. Your world has been chosen for integration into our empire. Prepare for our arrival." The message ended as abruptly as it began. In the silence that followed, Sarah's mind was already racing. The translation itself revealed volumes about their technology. They'd been studying Earth long enough to master our languages and communication systems. The next 48 hours transformed human civilization. Ancient rivalries were set aside as governments worldwide unified under the threat of extinction. The Global Defense Initiative, once a research organization, became humanity's first line of defense. Sarah found herself working alongside military leaders from nations that had been enemies just days before. Commander Marcus Rodriguez, formerly of the United States Space Force, was assigned as her military liaison. "They're not just coming to say hello," Rodriguez said, reviewing the latest sensor data. "Those ships are carrying enough energy to vaporize our oceans." Sarah nodded, studying the holographic display of the approaching fleet. But why announce themselves? Why not just attack if that's their intention? "Standard Imperial tactics," a voice said from the doorway. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the facility's stenoanthropologist, entered with a stack of historical data. Throughout human history, empires often announced their presence before conquest. It's not about the immediate military victory. It's about establishing psychological dominance. Sarah turned back to the sensors, something nagging at the edge of her consciousness. The Empire's ships were powerful, yes, but something about their energy signatures seemed familiar. She began cross-referencing their readings with Earth's own research into quantum mechanics and electromagnetic field manipulation. As the alien fleet entered the inner solar system, humanity watched and waited. Military forces worldwide were on high alert, though everyone knew our most powerful weapons would be like throwing pebbles at a battleship. Our best hope lay not in military might, but in understanding. And Sarah was beginning to understand something very interesting indeed. The Empire's ships took up position around Earth's orbit, their massive forms blocking out the stars. High Commander Vexthor's face appeared again on global communications. Your world has been monitored for centuries. We have watched your wars, your struggles, your technological infancy. You are not ready for the complexities of galactic civilization. Submit to imperial rule, and we will guide your species to enlightenment. Resist, and we will demonstrate the consequences of defiance. As the world's leaders scrambled to respond, Sarah made a discovery that would change everything. The Empire's seemingly invincible technology had a foundation in principles that humanity had already begun to grasp. More importantly, Earth itself possessed something unique, something the Empire hadn't accounted for. She rushed to the emergency session of the Global Defense Council, her discovery burning in her mind. The Empire's arrival had united humanity in fear, but Sarah's discovery might unite us in purpose. They thought Earth was defenseless, primitive, easy prey. They were about to learn how wrong they were. As she prepared to present her findings, Sarah looked out at the assembled leaders of Earth. In their faces, she saw not defeat, but determination. Humanity had faced extinction-level threats before, from nature, from ourselves, and we had always found a way to survive. This time would be no different. The Empire had made a crucial mistake. They had underestimated human ingenuity. And in doing so, they had given us exactly what we needed: a common enemy, a unified purpose, and most importantly, a close-up look at their technology. The war for Earth's independence was about to begin, and humanity had a few surprises in store for the Galactic Empire. The Imperial ships loomed in Earth's orbit like artificial moons, their surfaces shifting with patterns of light that defied human understanding. In the 2 weeks since their arrival, the world had changed irrevocably. Cities lay quiet, their streets empty save for military patrols. The global economy had ground to a halt, and humanity waited with bated breath for what would come next. Commander Marcus Rodriguez stood in the underground command center of Project Phoenix, watching as Dr. Chen presented her findings to the Global Defense Council. The room was carved deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, shielded from both Imperial scanning technology and potential strikes. Their entire technological framework relies on manipulating quantum fields, Sarah explained, her holographic displays showing complex wave patterns. But here's what's fascinating. They're using Earth's electromagnetic field as a carrier wave for their communications and power distribution. And why is this significant? Asked the Chinese representative, leaning forward in his chair. Sarah's eyes gleamed with barely contained excitement. Because Earth's magnetic field isn't just any magnetic field. It's unique in this sector of space, generated by our planet's molten iron core and influenced by complex geological and atmospheric factors. The Empire's ships are literally surfing on our planet's natural energy. Before she could continue, the emergency alerts blared. High Commander Vexthor's image appeared on every screen, his otherworldly eyes seeming to peer into each person individually. People of Earth, your assessment period has concluded. We have determined that your species requires significant guidance to achieve its potential. You will submit to the following terms. First, all military forces will be disbanded. Second, all technological research will be conducted under Imperial supervision. Third, a governing council of Imperial advisors will be established in each of your major population centers. The alien's voice grew colder. You have 24 hours to comply. After that, we will begin implementing these changes ourselves. Resistance will result in unfortunate consequences. As the transmission ended, Rodriguez stepped forward. "Dr. Chen, I believe it's time to brief the Council on Operation Thunderstrike." Sarah nodded, pulling up a new set of diagrams. "The Empire's ships are powerful, but they're not invincible. They're actually quite vulnerable. They just don't know it yet. Their entire technology is calibrated to work with stable magnetic fields. Earth's field is anything but stable." She gestured to a global map showing magnetic flux lines. "Our planet's magnetic field is constantly shifting, influenced by solar wind, geological activity, and atmospheric conditions. The Empire's ships are compensating for these changes, but barely. Their power systems are working overtime just to maintain stability." "How can we use this?" asked the Russian president, his hologram flickering slightly. "We've been developing a network of electromagnetic pulse generators," Rodriguez explained. "Not traditional EMP weapons. These are designed to work with Earth's natural magnetic field, amplifying and directing its fluctuations. Dr. Chen's team has found a way to create controlled magnetic storms that could disrupt the Empire's technology." The Indian Prime Minister spoke up. "But surely they'll detect any large-scale construction." Sarah smiled. "That's the beauty of it. We're not building anything new. We're repurposing existing infrastructure, power plants, satellite networks, even the planet's own geological features. Everything we need is already in place. We just need to throw the switch." The council chambers erupted in discussion. The plan was audacious, unprecedented, and incredibly risky. If it failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. But it was also the first real hope humanity had found since the Empire's arrival. While the council debated, work continued beneath the surface. In thousands of locations worldwide, teams of engineers and scientists worked to modify Earth's existing power grid. Every nuclear plant, every hydroelectric dam, every geothermal facility was being subtly altered to serve a new purpose. The Empire, confident in their superiority, noticed nothing amiss. Their ships maintained their threatening positions, their sensors focused on obvious military installations and population centers. They didn't understand that Earth itself was being transformed into a weapon. 20 hours into the Empire's ultimatum, Sarah made a troubling discovery. "Commander, look at these readings." She called Rodriguez over to her workstation. "The Empire's ships, they're not just using our magnetic field for power. They're actively drawing energy from it." Rodriguez frowned. "Is that a problem for the plan?" "It could be. If they drain too much energy, they might destabilize the very field we're planning to use against them. We need to move faster." The commander nodded, already reaching for his secure communicator. "I'll alert the council. How much time do we need?" Sarah ran quick calculations. "The preliminary system is ready now, but it's only at 30% capacity. We need at least 12 more hours to bring everything online." "We have 4, Rodriguez replied grimly. As the deadline approached, tension mounted in command centers worldwide. The Empire's ships had begun moving, taking up attack positions around major cities. Their message was clear: surrender or face annihilation. In the depths of the mountain facility, Sarah worked frantically to complete the final calibrations. The entire planet's power grid had been transformed into one massive weapon, but timing would be crucial. If they acted too soon, the effect would be too weak, too late, and there might not be an Earth left to defend. The Empire's ultimatum was about to expire, and humanity's response would determine the fate of our species. But in labs and bunkers around the world, a quiet confidence had begun to spread. For the first time since the Empire's arrival, humanity had hope. And sometimes, hope was the most powerful weapon of all. The Global Defense Council made its decision with minutes to spare. As the Empire's deadline expired, Earth's response was transmitted on all frequencies: apparent surrender. High Commander Vexthor's face showed no emotion as he received Earth's message of submission, but there was satisfaction in his voice. "Your wisdom in accepting Imperial guidance is noted. The transition begins now." Within hours, Imperial ships descended through the atmosphere, landing in designated areas outside major cities. Their massive forms cast long shadows over the surrounding landscape, their surfaces rippling with complex patterns of light and energy. From each ship emerged teams of Imperial personnel, their iridescent forms moving with fluid grace as they began establishing their presence on Earth. Deep underground, Sarah Chen watched the Empire's deployment through a network of hidden sensors. "They're moving faster than we anticipated," she reported to Commander Rodriguez. "Their energy consumption is off the charts. They're drawing even more power from Earth's magnetic field than before." Rodriguez studied the data streams, his expression grim. "How long until the planetary grid is ready?" "We need at least 8 more hours. The power synchronization has to be perfect, or we'll do more damage to ourselves than to them." Sarah ran her fingers through her hair, exhaustion evident in her movements. She hadn't slept in days, surviving on caffeine and determination. On the surface, the Empire's occupation proceeded with mechanical efficiency. Imperial advisors took their positions in government buildings worldwide, their presence a constant reminder of Earth's new status. Their technology began integrating with Earth's infrastructure, supposedly to improve and modernize human civilization. What they didn't know was that every Imperial modification provided Sarah's team with more data, more understanding of their systems. Each new connection between their technology and Earth's power grid brought them one step closer to their own doom. "They're establishing their first base on Mars," Yuki Tanaka reported, showing satellite imagery of Imperial construction ships arriving at the Red Planet. "They're not just occupying Earth, they're claiming the entire solar system." "Let them," Rodriguez replied. "The further they spread their network, the more vulnerable they become to what we're planning." The resistance network grew beneath the Empire's notice. Every apparent act of submission masked a calculated move of defiance. When Imperial advisors demanded access to Earth's power plants for efficiency improvements, they were shown carefully prepared facilities while the real work continued in hidden locations. Sarah's team made a breakthrough in understanding the Empire's quantum field manipulation technology. "They're not just using Earth's magnetic field for power," she explained to the Council. "They're using it for everything: communications, weapons, even their artificial gravity systems. It's all interconnected." "And that's their weakness?" asked the Brazilian president. "More than that," Sarah replied, her eyes bright with discovery. "It's their fundamental flaw. They've become so dependent on manipulating natural magnetic fields that they've lost the ability to generate their own. They're like parasites, feeding off the energy of planets they conquer." The Empire's occupation grew more intrusive with each passing day. Imperial ships now patrolled Earth's skies constantly, their presence a reminder of humanity's supposed submission. They began recruiting Earth's brightest minds for their research facilities on Mars, unaware that many of these scientists were part of the resistance. 3 weeks into the occupation, Sarah made a disturbing discovery. "Commander, look at these readings," she called Rodriguez to her station. "The Empire's power draw is starting to affect Earth's magnetic field stability. If this continues, they could trigger a planetary magnetic reversal." "How long?" "At current rates, maybe 6 months. But that's not the immediate problem." She pulled up a new set of data. "These fluctuations, they're not random. The Empire is actively trying to reshape Earth's magnetic field to better suit their technology." Rodriguez's face hardened. "They're terraforming us." "Yes, but they've made a crucial mistake." Sarah's fingers flew over her console, bringing up complex mathematical models. "Their attempts to stabilize and reshape Earth's magnetic field are actually making it more susceptible to our planned disruption. We won't need nearly as much power as we originally calculated." The revelation accelerated their timeline. Around the world, resistance cells began final preparations. The planetary grid was almost ready: power plants, satellite networks, and geological features all calibrated to act in concert. In Imperial command centers, the occupation continued smoothly. Human civilization appeared to be adapting well to Imperial guidance. Production quotas were being met, technological integration was proceeding according to schedule, and resistance was minimal. High Commander Vexthor prepared his report to the Imperial capital. Earth's integration was proceeding perfectly. Soon, this resource-rich world would be another jewel in the Empire's crown, its magnetic field regulated and stabilized for optimal Imperial use. But beneath the surface of apparent submission, humanity was coiling like a spring. In hidden facilities worldwide, engineers and scientists worked tirelessly, checking and rechecking systems. Military forces maintained their readiness while appearing to disband. And in the depths of the Rocky Mountains, Sarah Chen put the finishing touches on humanity's response to Imperial domination. The Empire thought they had encountered a primitive species ready for subjugation. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength lay not in our technology, but in our ability to adapt, to deceive, and to strike back when least expected. The time for submission was ending. The time for resistance was about to begin. The moment of revelation began not with a bang, but with a whisper. In the secure command center beneath the Rockies, Sarah Chen initiated the final sequence of Project Phoenix with a single keystroke. Across the globe, power plants hummed to life in perfect synchronization, their energy flowing through carefully modified circuits and transformers. "All systems are green," she announced, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "The planetary grid is ready." Commander Rodriguez stood at her side, watching as status indicators turned green across the massive display screen. "Begin the test sequence. Target the Imperial outpost in the Atacama Desert." The outpost was small, just a single Imperial ship and its support structures, isolated enough that any unexpected effects would be contained. Sarah's fingers danced across her console, directing the power of a dozen facilities into a precise geometric pattern. Initiating magnetic pulse in 3, 2, 1. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Imperial ship's surface rippled like water in a storm, its usual patterns of light flickering chaotically. Alarms blared as the ship's systems tried to compensate for the sudden magnetic disruption. Within seconds, it crashed to the ground, its anti-gravity systems completely disabled. "Multiple Imperial distress calls detected," reported a communications officer. "They have no idea what hit them." Sarah studied the readings intently. The effect was even stronger than our models predicted. The ship's quantum field generators completely failed when faced with the magnetic turbulence. "How long until they trace it back to us?" Rodriguez asked. "They won't," Sarah replied with confidence. "As far as their sensors can tell, it was a natural magnetic anomaly. We're just helping nature along a bit." High Commander Vexthor's response was swift. His face appeared on screens throughout the command center, his usual composure showing cracks of concern. "This incident will be thoroughly investigated. Any human interference with Imperial operations will result in severe consequences." Rodriguez nodded to Sarah. "Time to show them exactly what we can do." The next demonstration targeted 3 Imperial ships simultaneously, one over New York, one over Beijing, and one over Moscow. This time, there was no subtlety. The ship's energy fields collapsed in spectacular fashion, forcing them to retreat to high orbit. "Incoming transmission from the Imperial flagship," announced the communications officer. Vexthor's face appeared, his iridescent skin pulsing with barely contained rage. "You dare to attack Imperial vessels. Your species' destruction is now assured." "Actually," Rodriguez replied, stepping into view of the transmission, "we'd like to deliver a message of our own." Sarah activated a second pulse, this one targeted precisely at the Empire's communication networks. The alien technology stuttered, then stabilized. But now they could only receive, not transmit. Earth would have its say. "For weeks, you've occupied our world," Rodriguez began, his voice carried to every Imperial ship in the solar system. "You've threatened our civilization, attempted to reshape our planet, and treated us as primitive beings in need of guidance. It's time you understood exactly who you're dealing with." Sarah activated displays showing the full scope of Project Phoenix, the planetary power grid, the magnetic pulse generators, the precisely calculated disruption patterns. Your entire technology base depends on manipulating magnetic fields, she explained. But Earth's magnetic field belongs to us. We've spent weeks studying your systems, learning your vulnerabilities. Every time you tried to stabilize our planet's magnetic field, you gave us more data about how to destabilize yours. This is your only warning, Rodriguez continued. Remove your forces from Earth and our solar system, or we will demonstrate the full power of our planetary defense system. You thought you found an easy target. Instead, you've awakened a sleeping giant. To emphasize the point, Sarah triggered a synchronized pulse from power stations across Asia. 20 Imperial ships suddenly found their systems failing, forcing them to retreat to a higher orbit where Earth's magnetic field was weaker. The Empire's response was predictable. They launched an immediate attack. Energy weapons fired from their capital ships, aimed at major cities worldwide. But humanity was ready. Sarah activated the defensive grid at full power. The Empire's energy weapons, dependent on magnetic field manipulation for targeting and containment, dissipated harmlessly in the atmospheric turbulence she created. Their mighty ships, unable to maintain stability in the chaotic magnetic environment, were forced to retreat further from Earth. Impossible, Vex Thor's voice cracked with disbelief. Your species is primitive. You cannot possess this level of understanding. We understood enough to turn your own technology against you, Sarah replied. And we're just getting started. You have 1 hour to begin your withdrawal. After that, we'll expand our magnetic disruption field to include Mars. I imagine your new bases there wouldn't survive the experience. The command center fell silent as they waited for the Empire's response. On screens worldwide, humanity watched as the mighty Imperial fleet found itself unable to maintain its threatening position over Earth's cities. Their supposedly invincible ships now struggled against the very force they had tried to control. Earth's natural magnetic field, turned into a weapon by human ingenuity. The Empire had come expecting to find a primitive world ripe for conquest. Instead, they had found humanity, adaptable, resourceful, and absolutely unwilling to submit. Their warning had been delivered. Now they would see if the Empire was wise enough to heed it. The Empire's response came with devastating fury. Hundreds of ships dropped out of hyperspace, filling Earth's orbit with their massive forms. High Commander Vex Thor's voice thundered through all communication channels. You have forced our hand. The Empire does not tolerate rebellion. Your species will serve as an example to all who would resist Imperial rule. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, Sarah Chen watched as the Imperial Armada took position. Her hands moved steadily over her controls, making final adjustments to the planetary defense grid. They'd brought reinforcements, she noted calmly. Exactly as we predicted. Commander Rodriguez nodded grimly. The more ships they bring, the more resources they commit, and the more devastating their defeat will be. He turned to address the Global Defense Council, their holograms flickering with tension, all nations standing by. One by one, the world's leaders confirmed their readiness. Humanity had spent the last hour preparing for this moment. The Empire's overwhelming show of force was meant to terrify them into submission. Instead, it had only strengthened their resolve. The Imperial attack began simultaneously across the globe. Energy weapons lanced down from orbit, targeting military installations, power plants, and population centers. But Earth was ready. The planetary defense grid activated at full power, creating a magnetic turbulence that turned their precise weapons into harmless light shows. They're adapting, Sarah reported, watching as Imperial ships adjusted their attack patterns, switching to projectile weapons and trying to compensate for the magnetic interference. Rodriguez leaned forward, studying the tactical displays. Initiate Phase 2. Sarah's fingers flew across her console. Around the world, hidden installations activated, adding their power to the planetary grid. The magnetic disruption field expanded, reaching higher into orbit, becoming more chaotic and unpredictable. Imperial ships began to lose formation as their navigation systems failed. Their energy shields flickered and died, leaving them vulnerable to their own ricocheting weapons. The mighty armada that had conquered 1,000 worlds found itself being defeated not by superior firepower, but by the fundamental laws of physics they had taken for granted. "Message from High Commander Vexthor," announced the communications officer. The alien leader's face appeared on screen, his composure completely shattered. "Stop this madness. You're disrupting the fabric of space itself." "No," Sarah replied, her voice firm. "We're simply showing you the true power of our world. Earth's magnetic field isn't just a power source to be harnessed. It's part of a complex system that your empire never bothered to understand. You saw our planet as primitive because we hadn't learned to control these forces. But we learned something far more important: how to work with them." As if to emphasize her point, a massive solar flare chose that moment to strike Earth's magnetosphere. Under normal circumstances, the planet's magnetic field would have deflected it harmlessly. But Sarah's team had spent weeks studying how to use such events. They subtly altered the magnetic field's shape, channeling the solar energy directly into the midst of the Imperial fleet. The result was catastrophic for the Empire. Dozens of ships lost power completely, their crews forced to abandon them as they drifted helplessly in orbit. Others, attempting to retreat, found their hyperspace drives unable to function in the magnetically chaotic environment. "Final warning," Rodriguez announced on all frequencies. "Withdraw your forces immediately, or we will extend this magnetic disruption field throughout the solar system. Your bases on Mars will be destroyed. Your fleet will be stranded. And Earth's message will be clear. We are not your subjects. We are not your resource. We are humanity, and we will not submit." For a long moment, silence filled all channels. Then, one by one, Imperial ships began to retreat. Those that could still maneuver helped tow their disabled companions to safe distance. The mighty armada that had arrived to punish Earth was running away. High Commander Vexthor made one final transmission. "This is not over. The Empire will return." "No," Rodriguez replied. "It won't, because you're going to tell your leaders something very important. Earth is now a quarantined world, not because we're primitive, but because we're dangerous. Any ship entering our solar system will face the same magnetic chaos that defeated your fleet today. We'll be watching, we'll be learning, and we'll be growing stronger." Sarah added, "And one more thing. Spread the word to other civilizations under Imperial rule. Tell them how a primitive world brought the mighty Empire to its knees. Tell them about the power of working with natural forces instead of trying to control them. Tell them that resistance is not only possible, it's inevitable." The Imperial fleet retreated beyond Neptune's orbit, their mighty ships limping away from the world they had tried to conquer. On Earth, celebrations erupted around the globe. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious, but stronger. In the command center, Sarah and Rodriguez watched the Empire's retreat on their monitors. "They'll be back, won't they?" Sarah asked quietly. "Maybe," Rodriguez replied, "but not as conquerors. Next time, they'll come as equals, if they come at all. Today, humanity didn't just defend Earth. We changed the balance of power in the galaxy." As the last Imperial ship disappeared from their sensors, Sarah thought about the future. Earth had proven itself more than capable of standing against the greatest power in the galaxy. But more importantly, humanity had shown that true strength lies not in dominating natural forces, but in understanding them, working with them, and knowing when to let them work for you. The Empire had arrived expecting to find a primitive civilization. Instead, they had discovered an essential truth. Humanity's greatest weapon was never our technology, but our ability to adapt, to innovate, and to turn apparent weakness into unprecedented strength. The stars above no longer seemed like a frontier to fear, but a horizon of endless possibilities, and humanity was ready to explore them, not as subjects of an empire, but as architects of our own destiny.